Hello. In today's session, I'm going to show you gloPM, practice management, in a high-level demo situation. So I'm going to go ahead and get started by showing you the dashboard. That's the screen we're looking at the moment. The dashboard actually shows us a home base of everything that we need to know or a place to move around in our system. So it's kind of our gathering place. What you'll notice is that it has patient list information in the center here, along with the patient demographics for any patient that I want to see these two connect. I'm going to start by talking about the very top left of our screen, which is our settings ribbon menu. So if I go to our ribbon menu and I click on edit, for example, you're going to see this is where all of your master files are stored. So things like your contacts, where you build your appointment information from, your billing configuration, and your templates. So it's an area that you'll spend time in if you're the person in your practice that actually does any type of master building. Go actually matches our icons on our toolbar, and I'll show you those in a minute, but that's another way to maneuver through your system. And then I'm just going to jump over to reports just to give you an idea that, again, the ribbon menu is really taking you to places that you may have tasks involved depending on your job description in your practice. So you may need to get into some of these items. Otherwise, the dashboard is actually where we maneuver around from for the most part. You'll notice that I have new patient or modified patient, calendar, which will take me straight into making appointments, etc., as well as charges and payments and so forth. So as I go through the demo, you'll start seeing how I move through the system using those icons. The center of our screen is actually where we're seeing the patient information from. So I have the ability to search in code order, which puts them in numeric order, or first name order, which of course will put our patients in first name alphabetical order, or last name order, so I can actually go out here and alphabetize things in whatever column format that I would like to alphabetize them in, or search for them in. I can also just search by starting to spell names. For instance, if I type in MI, it's going to take me to Milton or Mickey's account. Or if I back up and go into just the M's, you can see I have some patients that started with the last name of M and others that had M in the middle initial or in their first name. So it gives us the ability to scroll whichever way we would like to. If I type in MO, it's going to narrow that search down to my Morton Moore as my Mickey Mouse or my James Moore. I can also search by social security number. So if I type in 278, I will see all the patients who have a social security number of 278. I could search by phone numbers. So if I type in 419, you will see all of my patients that have a phone number of 419. I can also search by mobile number, so if you notice that mobile number is an option that's out there as well, I can certainly find patients whichever way that I would like to search for them by. When I have the ability to go by provider, I can actually say, I just want to see all of my patients that are Sean Pham's patients, and then when I'm searching just through that provider's patients. Or I can say I want to see Sean Pham's patients that are scheduled today. So if I click on this checkbox, it'll actually limit me to Sean Pham's patients for just today, or of course I can go to all patients today no matter which provider they're scheduled to see. So we have the flexibility in gloPM to search for patients in many ways, which is very much a competitive advantage compared to other systems that have to do a lot of work to get to those search fields. So this is a great feature. I can also do things like, I'm going to pull up Robert. So I kind of had Robert highlighted at the bottom of the screen. You would have noticed that Robert's demographic information is what I'm seeing from here. So I have the ability to show Robert's name, his age. I have days out here because of pediatric purposes, so I have my demo turned on, so if it is a child or an infant that's not quite 1 month yet, we can see things in days format as well. This is all customizable, this particular part of the screen. So when I go into my settings options, I have the ability to say, what do I want to see in my demographics area? So I'm going to jump in there real quick just because I'm on this, and I want you to be able to see that you have the options to say, what columns do I want over here to show up on my demographic dashboard, or what demographic information do I want down here? So for instance, if I am pediatrics, I may not be doing social security number searches. So as soon as I touch on that, it will take that column out of my dashboard. I can also add demographic information. Do I want to see phone numbers, fax numbers, emergency contacts, and all that information right from this area here? All I do is check on them, and then that information is part of my demographic screen and search. So notice I got rid of social security number, and that's no longer part of my options up top. So I just wanted you to be able to see how flexible this information is. The other thing that happens is now that I have Robert highlighted on my account, you can see his patient alerts. And right now you're seeing copay in a flashing red color so that it warns my front desk to make sure that we're collecting all of the copay information that we need to from that patient. You can also add other patient alerts out there on the account as necessary or as needed. The bottom of the screen, this is also related to Robert. So you can see that Robert has Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan and Aetna insurance information. So this is where the copay information is coming from. I have the ability to change my copay information as necessary by insurance. One of the things that happens when we start moving into getting detailed information on this patient, I'll just right click to talk about it at the moment, but I can modify my insurance information from here, and that's where I can actually put in the patient's deductible and coverage amount. And I get that information because I click on eligibility check, and this will actually launch me out to Gateway to do an eligibility check for that insurance. The information that comes back is dependent on what the insurance company actually sends out themselves. Most of them do send their copays are pretty much on every insurance, but some of them will go as deep as telling you where their deductible stands and if they're on like a 80-20 policy plan or something to that effect, so that you can maybe collect additional money. But the big thing to know is that they are still on that insurance and what their copays are at least. So that's what eligibility check does. I could also from this area click on prior authorization and grab a prior authorization for this patient. So if this patient is coming in to see us and we have to get a prior authorization from our primary care physician, the common questions are, what was the date of the authorization and how good was that authorization through? So they always have an expiration date. I can say what type of appointment that they're coming in for, if it's driven by appointment type from the insurance company. Otherwise, I put in the alpha number, so it is an alpha or a number field that it gives us an authorization numbers for, and how many visits can that patient come through to see us on that particular authorization, as well as is it approved, denied, suspended, etc. So I can actually put in that it's an approved authorization, and then I can save it, and that authorization is now signed up on that patient. So as I go through my day, I'm going to demonstrate as much as I can and try to make as much sense as possible with sticking with one patient. So on that note, I'm going to say that I want to right click and collect that patient's copay today. So Robert's going to be coming in to see Dr. Pham today, so I'm going to collect his copay. What you'll notice is it launches me into the patient payment screen. So from here I can say what is my check number, and I would put in that it's check number 123 and that he's paying his $10 copay today. So I could as simple as type in the $10 and then I could post it. So I have older dates of service down here for this patient, and I certainly could apply that money at this point, but I'm collecting the copay for today, not for those other dates of service. So instead, I'm going to say I want to reserve the remaining money. So if I click on reserve remaining, it takes me into a notebook where I can say this money is to pay off charges that were posted or that will be posted for today on 2/22, and then I just throw in my initials just because, but the practices will come up with their own definition of what they want here. The point is that I'm saving money to be posted to a particular charge later on. So it tells me that it's copay or advance pay or other pay, but because I went into the copay area, it defaulted to copay. So I'm going to go ahead and save and close, and then save and close, and that money is now stored out there in an area. When I get ready to do my charges, I can take that money and post it to today's charge. I certainly could have collected additional money and posted that money towards those other dates of service if necessary, but for this purpose I was just showing you how to collect copay and store that money for my charge entry person. On the right side of the screen, you'll see a patient status area. And there's areas that I can certainly manipulate how I want these screens to look, by the way, because I didn't really explain that too much. I can just go to settings and say restore dashboard settings, and it puts things back to the original size and dimension. But sometimes we want to see things differently, and we have the ability to move stuff around and actually completely redesign the screen if necessary. This patient status area that I just started to talk about, once I start checking a patient in, you'll see this grow with all of my checked in patients as the day goes on. Can also right click and customize my dashboard ribbon menu. So my toolbar menu that's up here, I can actually put it in any order I want it to go in. So it's not set, it's again a customizable place. I'm going to go ahead and double click here for a second and get into Robert's demographic area. I said double click because that's how I'm comfortable using it, but I certainly could click on modify patient instead. So both options are okay for you to use. If I'm in the demographic area, what you're going to see first of all is that there is an auto-generate patient code number. And then you'll put in the patient's name and date of birth. There is race out here, and I do like to stop and talk about race for a second. You can add as many races as you want under our categories area. And the idea is that not necessarily for practice management, but definitely for EMR. When you're talking about a patient's diseases or disease management, EMR has the ability to drive demographic or race information as part of their disease management control or case plan. So if I do have some sort of a plan, for instance, maybe a diabetics or other types of disease managements, some diseases are driven by race, which is why we would want to build races and collect that information about our patient. I have the ability to do browsing for photos or do a webcam. So if you do want to put a webcam in your practice, you can do that. The other option that I'll show you when I get back out to the front a little is that when you're scanning the patient's ID cards, you actually have the ability to have an OCR field pick up the patient's driver's license picture and put it in the demographic area here. So I kind of jumped out of order there, but I think you'll get the idea. There's also a zip code format. So if I build in a zip code, you'll see that the zip codes automatically will pull in the city, state, county, and country as necessary. So that's an automatic file that's built out there for you. You can maintain it or build from it or change it if necessary. In the other details area, you'll notice that the provider is the provider in your practice and that there's red asterisks in front of some of these fields.